Commander Jun Park stood with the other members of the human delegation, his back straight despite his exhaustion. The air aboard the Kreveshi warship felt too thick, the gravity slightly stronger than Earth standard. They had been touring the massive vessel for over 3 hours, and his diplomatic smile was beginning to strain. Admiral Tanak, a towering figure with molten gold skin and 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern, gestured toward another corridor with one of his 4 arms. And now, honored humans, the observation deck. From here, you may appreciate the true might of our Imperial fleet. Jun nodded politely, following the Admiral and his guards. The human delegation had been sent to establish peaceful relations with the Kreveshi Empire, a species that had expanded rapidly through 3 sectors in just 2 decades. Earth needed allies, not enemies. The observation deck was impressive, Jun had to admit. A vast chamber with transparent walls that curved overhead, creating the illusion of standing in open space. The stars shone brilliantly, and below them, the curve of a blue-green planet. Around it orbited dozens of Kreveshi warships, their hulls gleaming like polished bronze in the sunlight. Magnificent, murmured Lin, the chief diplomat, beside him. Jun was about to agree when something caught his eye. A flash of light reflecting off one of the nearby warships. He stepped closer to the transparent wall, squinting. There, attached to the hull of the vessel, was a humanoid figure. Jun blinked, sure he was seeing things. But no, there was definitely a being strapped to the exterior of the warship, a slender form with silvery blue skin that seemed to shimmer faintly against the dark metal. The figure was spread-eagled, held in place by what looked like metal bands across the limbs and torso. "Admiral," Jun said, his voice carefully neutral. "What is that?" He pointed toward the figure. The other humans in the delegation followed his gaze, and he heard Lin's sharp intake of breath. Admiral Tanak moved beside him, all 6 eyes following Jun's outstretched hand. "Ah, you have good eyes, Commander Park. That is just a trophy from our conquest of the Lumine system." "A trophy?" Jun repeated, struggling to keep his expression neutral. "Yes, the daughter of their High Council." Tanak's mouth parts shifted in what Jun had learned was a gesture of pride. "She serves as a reminder to all who would oppose the Kreveshi Empire." The other humans exchanged uncomfortable glances. Lin stepped forward, diplomatic training evident in her smooth recovery. "Your military accomplishments are impressive, Admiral. The Kreveshi Empire's strength is why Earth seeks friendship between our peoples." But Jun couldn't take his eyes off the figure on the hull. The being, the woman, appeared to be in some sort of stasis. Her eyes were closed, face serene despite her horrific position. "Is she alive?" he asked carefully, unable to stop himself. Admiral Tanak turned all 6 eyes toward him. "Of course," he replied, his voice casual. "What glory is there in displaying the dead?" Jun felt his stomach twist, but kept his face blank. Years of military and diplomatic training had prepared him for surprising revelations, but nothing like this. He noticed the other members of the human delegation shifting uneasily. "The Lumine were a fascinating species," continued Tanak, apparently oblivious to the humans' discomfort. "Weak, but beautiful. They could communicate through light patterns in their skin. This one's father refused to surrender their central worlds. He changed his mind when we placed his daughter on our flagship." Jun stared at the figure, trying to comprehend the cruelty. The woman had been conscious when they put her there. Had she heard her father's pleas? Had she been awake when they strapped her to the hull? "How does she survive the vacuum?" asked Dr. Ree, the science officer, her voice strained but professional. Tanak gestured to another Kreveshi officer who stepped forward. "The stasis field preserves all biological functions," explained the officer. "It allows minimal consciousness while preventing aging or death. The field also protects against radiation and temperature extremes." "Minimal consciousness," Jun repeated softly. The woman was aware. She was experiencing this. "Yes, the trophy must know it is a trophy," said Tanak, as if explaining something obvious. Otherwise, the lesson is lost. June met the eyes of Captain Yoon, the senior military officer in their delegation. The captain's face was expressionless, but June knew him well enough to recognize the disgust in his eyes. "How many such trophies do you display?" asked Lin, her diplomatic training evident in her steady voice. "Each capital ship carries at least one," answered Tanak proudly. "It is a great honor for a commander to be granted a trophy. I have 2 on my flagship. 2 living beings strapped to the hull, aware for whom knew how long." June felt sick. "Would you like to see them up close?" offered Tanak. "We could take a shuttle around the exterior. The trophy's light patterns sometimes still activate when stimulated. Quite beautiful, really." "Perhaps another time," Lin interjected smoothly. "We still have much to discuss about the trade agreement." Tanak nodded. "Of course, this way to the command center." As the delegation moved to follow, Jun lingered for a moment, his eyes fixed on the distant figure. The woman's silver-blue skin caught the starlight, making her appear to glow faintly against the dark hull. Captain Hume paused beside him. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't what?" June asked quietly. "Whatever you're thinking, I can see it in your eyes." June turned to his superior. "You saw her, sir. A sentient being, conscious, used as a hood ornament." "I saw," Hume murmured. "But we have our orders. Earth needs this alliance." June looked back at the figure one last time. At what cost? As they walked to catch up with the others, June's mind was racing. The Crevashi were powerful, yes, but any civilization that treated sentient beings this way, could Earth really ally with them? What would that say about humanity? He thought of Earth's history, the long struggle against slavery and cruelty, the recognition of sentient rights that had eventually extended to the first non-human intelligences they'd encountered. Could they really sign a treaty with the Crevashi, knowing what they did to conquered peoples? June followed the delegation through the ship, his face a mask of diplomatic politeness, but inside, a plan was already forming. He didn't know how yet, but somehow he would find a way to help that woman, no matter the risk, no matter the cost to his career. Because some lines shouldn't be crossed, some acts couldn't be ignored, not even in the name of peace. Commander Jun Park couldn't sleep. The image of the woman strapped to the hull haunted him. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw her silver-blue skin stretched against the cold metal of the Crevashi warship, imagined her awareness trapped in that frozen body. The delegation had returned to the Earth vessel Concordia 6 hours ago, but he hadn't found a moment's peace. He paced his small quarters, the metal floor cold beneath his bare feet. The room felt too confined, too similar to a prison cell, like her prison, suspended in space. His door chimed. "Come in," he called. Lieutenant Hannah Kim entered, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. She carried a data tablet under her arm and wore the concerned expression that had become familiar over their years serving together. "You should be resting, Commander," she said. "The treaty signing is in 14 hours. June ran a hand through his hair. "How can I rest when I know what's happening on those ships? When I know what we're about to align ourselves with?" Hannah sighed. "I've known you too long to believe you called me here just to vent. What are you planning?" June activated the privacy screen on his wall terminal. A soft hum filled the room as audio dampeners engaged, preventing any surveillance. "I can't just leave her there, Hannah," he said simply. Hannah's eyes widened. "You can't be serious. The Crevashi have technology decades beyond ours. Their military presence in this sector is overwhelming. I know the risks." "Do you? Because it sounds like you're considering an action that could not only end your career but potentially spark an interstellar incident." She placed her tablet on his desk with a sharp click. "The alliance with the Crevashi is crucial to Earth's security. If we interfere. If we don't, what does that say about us?" June countered, stopping his pacing to face her. "About humanity. It says we're practical. It says we put our people's safety first, at any cost, even our soul. Jun pressed a panel on his wall, revealing a hidden compartment. He removed a small data crystal and inserted it into his terminal. The screen flickered to life, displaying information about the Lumine, the species of the woman on the hull. While the Admiral was showing us their weapons systems, I accessed their database, Jun explained. Look at this. Images appeared, a beautiful crystalline city that seemed to glow from within. Beings with that same silver-blue skin, their bodies emitting soft patterns of light as they communicated. The Lumine were peaceful, Jun said quietly. They were artists, philosophers. Look at their cities, their culture. Hannah leaned closer, studying the images. And they're nearly extinct now, she murmured. The Crevashi didn't just defeat them in battle. They systematically destroyed their civilization. They took their leaders' children as trophies to force their surrender, then decimated their population anyway. He swiped to another screen showing star maps. There were once 17 Lumine colony worlds. Now there are 3 small outposts, with fewer than 10,000 survivors total. Hannah was silent for a long moment. Earth needs allies, Jun. You know the Garaxis hegemony has been pushing into our territory. And these are the allies we want. People who strap living beings to their ships and leave them conscious for decades, who commit genocide and display the survivors like hunting trophies. Jun brought up another image, a close-up scan of the woman on the hull. Even in stasis, her face showed a delicate beauty, with features that seemed almost luminous. I scanned her while we were on the observation deck, he said. The stasis field is sophisticated, but it's designed to preserve, not to hide. I got readings on her neural activity. He pointed to a series of spikes on a graph. She's dreaming, Hannah. She's in there, alive, thinking, feeling. Hannah closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her expression had hardened. It could mean war, she warned. It won't come to that. How can you possibly know that? Jun pulled up another screen, showing schematics of Crevashi ships. Because we're going to be smart about this. No direct confrontation. Hannah's eyebrows rose. We? I need your help, Hannah. And Jin's. The engineer. Jun, what are you planning? Something that won't be traced back to us, Jun replied. Something that looks like an accident. He brought up technical specifications for the stasis field. The Crevashi are proud, but they're also practical. If they lose a trophy due to what appears to be a technical malfunction, they won't risk an alliance over it. Hannah stared at the screen, then at Jun. He could see the conflict in her eyes. Duty versus ethics, safety versus right. If we're caught, she said slowly, it would be considered an act of sabotage, possibly even an act of war. I know. That's why I'm not ordering you to help me. I'm asking, as your friend. Hannah sank into the chair across from him. Tell me your plan. Jun brought up a schematic of both ships. Tomorrow, as part of the pre-treaty exchange, we're sending Jin and a team to the Crevashi flagship to help integrate our communication systems. Standard protocol. And the maintenance drones will need to scan the exterior hull to place relay nodes. Jin can modify one of the drones too. For the next hour, they refined the plan, identifying risks, developing contingencies. The more they talked, the more resolute Jun became. This wasn't just about saving one life. It was about what kind of people humans chose to be in this vast, often cruel universe. As dawn approached, Hannah finally nodded. I'm in. But if we're going to do this, we need to bring Dr. Min into the loop. We'll need medical support ready. Agreed. Jun stood, straightening his uniform. We have 6 hours before Jin departs for the Crevashi ship. Hannah moved toward the door, but paused before opening it. Jun, why this woman? There are others like her on other ships. We can't save them all. Jun looked at the image on his screen one last time before shutting it down. Because she's the one I saw. Because she's suffering now, and I can do something about it. He met Hannah's eyes, And because when we face some great wrong, we have to start somewhere. Hana nodded slowly. I'll talk to Jin. You get some rest. You'll need a clear head tomorrow. After she left, Jun lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time since returning from the Kreveshi ship, the knot in his stomach had loosened. They might fail. They might be caught. But they would try. Because some things mattered more than safety. Some things were worth risking everything for. Tomorrow, they would attempt the impossible. Tonight, at least, he could sleep. Jin Lee had never felt his hands shake like this before. As the Concordia's chief engineer, he had performed delicate work in dangerous situations many times, but this was different. This wasn't repairing a damaged reactor core or rerouting power during an asteroid storm. This was deliberate sabotage against a militarily superior alien species. He sat in the small maintenance bay of the shuttle, fingers dancing across the control pad as he guided the drone toward the massive Kreveshi warship looming before them. The drone was standard Earth technology, nothing special, except for the modifications he had secretly made during the night. Approaching designated coordinates, Jin reported, his voice calm despite his racing heart. Through the drone's camera, he could see the gleaming hull of the Kreveshi ship growing larger. And there, just where Commander Park had said she would be, was the Lumine woman. Her silvery blue skin reflected the starlight, making her look like a sculpture rather than a living being. I have visual confirmation, Jin said into his communicator. Understood, came Hannah's voice from the shuttle's airlock, where she waited in an environmental suit. Standing by. Jin checked his timer. Officially, we're checking their shield compatibility. He murmured, more to steady himself than for the benefit of the others. 2 minutes until the cameras loop. He'd spent hours during the night creating a program that would feed the Kreveshi security systems a loop of normal drone activity. It would only work for 3 minutes, not long, but hopefully enough. The drone reached the hull of the ship, its sensors scanning the stasis field that kept the Lumine woman suspended between life and death. Jin frowned at the readings. The field is more complex than we thought, he said. It's integrated into her nervous system. Can you disrupt it safely? Hannah asked. Jin studied the data. I think so, but we'll need to be precise. Too much power could kill her. Too little won't break the connection. Do what you need to do, came Commander Park's voice through the communicator. He was on the bridge of the Kreveshi ship, supposedly discussing technical specifications with their command staff. Just make it quick. On the bridge of the Kreveshi warship, Jun fought to keep his expression interested as Admiral Tanak explained the finer points of their targeting systems. His uniform felt too tight, his mouth dry as he nodded at appropriate intervals. Your plasma cannons are impressive, Jun said, pointing to a display. The targeting resolution must be exceptional to achieve that accuracy. Admiral Tanak's 6 eyes blinked in what Jun had learned was an expression of pride. Indeed, we can target a specific component on an enemy vessel from 5,000 kilometers. Fascinating. And your defensive systems are equally advanced, I imagine. As the Admiral launched into another explanation, Jun's earpiece crackled softly. 30 seconds, came Jin's voice, barely audible. Jun needed to ensure all attention remained on him for the next few minutes. He pointed to another display. What about these readings? Your energy distribution seems unusually efficient. Back at the shuttle, Jin activated the final sequence. The timer on his display counted down. 10, 9, 8. Ready? He asked Hana. Ready, she confirmed from the airlock. Commander, Jin checked. Proceed. Jun's voice was calm, professional. Jin's voice came through Jun's earpiece. Now. Jin pressed the activation key. The modified drone, now hovering just inches from the Lumine woman, emitted a focused pulse of energy, calibrated to disrupt the stasis field without harming its prisoner. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the field flickered, a shimmer of energy washing over the Lumine woman's body. Jin guided the drone closer. From its underside extended specialized mechanical arms. Tools meant for delicate repair work, now repurposed for rescue. With surgical precision, they began detaching the metal bands that held the woman to the hull. First restraint released, Jin reported. Moving to the second. His fingers flew across the controls, the drone responding to his every command. One by one, the restraints came free. Arms, legs, torso. The woman's body floated slightly as the last restraint detached, held in place only by the drone's mechanical grip. Got her, Jin said, bringing her in. The drone slowly pulled away from the hull, carrying its precious cargo toward the waiting shuttle. Jin watched the distance counter tick down. 100 meters, 80 meters, 60 meters. Life signs, he asked. In the airlock, Hannah monitored the readings from her suit's sensors, detecting minimal life functions. Heartbeat extremely slow but present. Neural activity minimal. Will she survive transport? Unknown, but we have to try. The drone reached the shuttle's open airlock. Hannah, tethered securely, reached out with gloved hands as the drone transferred the Lumine woman to her. Life signs stable, Hannah reported as they secured the unconscious figure in a medical pod they had prepared. But barely. Her system is in shock from the stasis disruption. The pod sealed with a soft hiss, internal systems activating to maintain life support. Hannah worked quickly, attaching monitoring devices, administering the treatments Dr. Min had prepared. Subject secured, Hannah reported. Drone returning tow. A red light flashed on Jin's console. Energy spike detected. The shuttle's computer announced. External scan in progress. Jin's blood ran cold. Kreveshi sensors detected something, he warned. They're scanning the area. On the bridge of the Kreveshi ship, a junior officer approached Admiral Tanak, speaking in their native language. June didn't need a translation to understand that something had alerted their systems. The Admiral turned all 6 eyes toward him. Commander Park, our sensors have detected unusual energy readings near the hull. Would your people know anything about this? Jun maintained a puzzled expression. What kind of readings? We have a maintenance drone checking shield compatibility. Standard procedure before communication integration. The readings are consistent with a stasis field disruption, the Admiral said, suspicion evident in his voice. Jun's heart raced. Deploy the decoy, he murmured into his communicator, disguising the words with a cough. He straightened his uniform. Admiral, with respect, Earth technology sometimes creates unusual readings. Perhaps we should check with my engineer. In the shuttle, Jin activated the second drone, their insurance policy. The decoy drone shot away from the shuttle, emitting the same energy signature as the first, but headed in the opposite direction. Decoy away, Jin reported, creating false readings 500 meters from the trophy position. The decoy drone accelerated, its energy signature growing stronger, more erratic, like a malfunctioning piece of equipment. On the Kreveshi bridge, an officer called out, Admiral, the anomalous readings are moving away from the ship. Energy signature increasing. Interesting, said Jun, frowning at the display as if confused. That's not normal behavior for our drones. It appears to be malfunctioning, the Admiral observed, still suspicious, but now watching the decoy's progress. Jun said into his communicator, keeping his voice normal as if speaking to his engineer about routine matters. We're reading unusual activity from maintenance drone beta. Can you explain? Checking, Commander, Jin replied, his voice coming through the bridge speakers. Yes, I see it. There's a power fluctuation in its primary systems. I'm attempting to override. The decoy drone suddenly flared brightly, then went dark, the self-destruct sequence Jin had programmed. Lost contact with the drone, Jin reported. It appears to have suffered a catastrophic power failure. The Admiral's attention was fully on the disappeared drone now. Your equipment seems unreliable, Commander Park. Jun allowed himself to look embarrassed. My apologies, Admiral. I assure you, this is unusual. We'll conduct a full investigation." In the shuttle, Hana and Jin exchanged looks of relief as the Cravashi sensors focused on the decoy's last position. "It worked," Hana whispered. "They took the bait." The medical pod hummed quietly, its occupant still unconscious but alive. For the first time, in what might have been decades, the Lumine woman was free. Jin began the shuttle's return sequence. "Mission accomplished," he said softly. "Let's bring her home." Dr. Soo Kim checked the readings on the medical pod for the 20th time that hour. For 3 days, she had monitored the Lumine woman's vital signs, watching as her body slowly awakened from decades of forced stasis. The process was delicate. Too rapid a revival could send her into shock. Too slow, and her consciousness might not fully return. "Neural activity increasing again," Dr. Kim noted, speaking into her medical recorder. "Autonomic functions stabilizing. Remarkable resilience considering the extended stasis period." She adjusted the environmental controls in the pod, increasing the temperature slightly. The Lumine homeworld had been warmer than Earth standard, according to the limited data Commander Park had acquired. Beside her, Nurse Jun monitored the woman's unique biological readings. "Doctor, look at this," he said, pointing to a display showing patterns of light traveling beneath the woman's silver-blue skin. "It's like electrical impulses, but different." "The Lumine communicate partially through bioluminescence," Dr. Kim explained. "Those patterns may indicate returning consciousness." As if in response to her words, the patterns intensified. The woman's skin began to pulse with gentle blue light, rippling in waves across her slender form. "She's waking up," Nurse Jun whispered. Dr. Kim pressed the communication panel. "Medical to Commander Park. Our patient is regaining consciousness." Inside the pod, the Lumine woman's eyelids fluttered. Her eyes opened slowly, large, luminous orbs with no visible pupils, just swirling patterns of silver against pale blue. She blinked several times, her gaze unfocused. Dr. Kim carefully opened the pod. "Can you understand me?" she asked gently. The woman's head turned toward the sound, her movements stiff and uncertain. Her lips parted, but no sound emerged. "Take your time," Dr. Kim said. "You're safe here." The woman swallowed, her throat working visibly. When she finally spoke, her voice was rough from disuse, but clear. "Where am?" she asked in halting universal standard, the trading language used throughout the sector. "You're safe," said Dr. Kim. "On a human vessel. The Concordia." The woman's eyes widened, more light patterns flickering across her skin. "Not Cravashi." "No. We removed you from their ship 3 days ago." The woman tried to sit up, her movements awkward and jerky. Nurse Jun helped support her, adjusting the bed to a reclining position. "I am Neri," she said, placing a hand over her chest. "Daughter of High Counselor Talon of Lumine Prime." Her voice grew stronger with each word, as if remembering how to use it. "I have been aware for 27 cycles. Unable to move. Unable to die." Dr. Kim felt a chill at the woman's words. 27 cycles, nearly 30 Earth years, conscious but paralyzed, displayed like a hunting trophy on the hull of a warship. "Nari," she said softly, "I'm Dr. Soo Kim. This is Nurse Jun. We've been caring for you since your rescue." "Rescue," Nari repeated the word as if testing it. "I had stopped hoping." Her skin rippled with pale blue light, forming complex patterns that shifted and changed. "Forgive my light speech," she said, noticing Dr. Kim watching the patterns. "It happens when emotions are strong." "No need for apologies," Dr. Kim assured her. "Your bioluminescence is beautiful." Neri tried to move her legs, wincing with the effort. "My body feels heavy, like swooning through stone." "That's normal after prolonged stasis. Your muscles have maintained their basic integrity thanks to the Cravashi field, but you'll need therapy to regain full mobility." "The others," Neri suddenly said, her light patterns flaring brightly. "There were others like me. On other ships." Dr. Kim exchanged a glance with Nurse June. We know. For now, we could only rescue you, but... The medical bay doors slid open, and Commander Jun Park entered. His uniform was rumpled, dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he hadn't slept much since the rescue operation. "Doctor, how is our?" He stopped when he saw Neri sitting up, awake and alert. A smile broke across his tired face. "You're awake." Neri's light patterns changed, becoming more organized, more deliberate. She studied June with her silvery eyes. "You," she said softly. "I remember your face. You looked at me through the field. Your eyes were kind." June approached slowly, not wanting to alarm her. "I'm Commander Jun Park. I'm sorry we couldn't free you sooner." "You risked much," Neri said. "The Crevashi do not forgive those who defy them." "Some things are worth the risk," Jun replied simply. Before he could say more, the ship's communication officer burst into the medical bay, her face flushed from running. "Commander, emergency transmission from Earth Command," she said breathlessly. "And the Crevashi flagship is hailing us. They're demanding the return of their property. They'd figured out it was us." The room fell silent. Dr. Kim looked at Neri, who had gone very still, her light patterns fading to a dim glow. Fear, the doctor realized. After decades of captivity, the thought of returning must be unbearable. June's jaw tightened. He looked at Neri, then back at his communications officer. "Tell Earth Command that I take full responsibility for my actions," he said firmly, "but I will not return her. No sentient being is property." "Sir," the officer hesitated, "Admiral Chen is on the line personally. He's ordering you to comply with the Crevashi demand. He says the alliance is at stake." "Then connect him here," Jun said. "He should meet the property he's so willing to trade away." The officer tapped her communication pad, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the medical bay. Admiral Chen's stern face materialized, his expression thunderous. "Commander Park, you will hand over the Lumine specimen immediately." "That's a direct order. The treaty signing is in 3 hours, and the Crevashi delegation is threatening to withdraw." "Admiral," Jun began, but Neri's voice cut through the tension in the room. "I am Neri of Lumine Prime," she said, her voice surprisingly strong. With visible effort, she stood from the bed, light patterns cascading down her body in complex, beautiful sequences. "Daughter of High Counselor Talon, heir to the Crystal Throne. I am not a specimen. I am not property." Admiral Chen blinked in surprise, clearly not expecting the alien woman to speak. "The Crevashi destroyed my world," Neri continued. "They slaughtered millions of my people. They bound me to their ship as a trophy and kept me conscious for 27 cycles so I could feel every moment of my captivity." Her light patterns intensified, filling the room with a soft blue glow. "If humanity returns me to them, what does that say about your people? What alliance are you building, and at what cost?" The Admiral's expression wavered. "Sir," June added quietly, respectfully, "this is a sentient rights issue. Earth has stood for those rights since the Accords of 2189. We cannot abandon those principles now." For a long moment, Admiral Chen was silent. Then he sighed heavily. "The diplomatic situation is complex, Commander. The Crevashi are powerful allies,